We have our emotions. Our emotions will always be present in our lives. Our emotions will always be a part of our lives, and emotions are not necessarily bad. Emotions are not a bad thing. However, if your emotions are not under control and they're not balanced and they're not, in other words, arrested, they can cause you to make certain bad decisions in life, your emotions. Now, for me, as somebody who was a very, very emotional person, ever since I was a newborn baby, I could never stop crying. I had a lot of emotions in my life. I am an emotional person. I'm not going to say that I'm not. But I know that because I'm an emotional person, I have trained myself to adopt a mindset and life approach of stoicism, where I allow myself to feel emotions, but I don't allow myself to act on them. I allow myself to feel emotions, but I don't allow myself to make decisions based on them. Because I think about all the times in my life in the past where me acting on my emotion either destroyed an opportunity or destroyed me in the process at that time. So logic will always trump emotion in the long run. So anytime you're about to make a decision in life, I always recommend that what I always tell people is, if you are in an emotional state, do not make decisions when you are emotional. Wait 24 to 48 hours, even 72 hours when you've calmed down, and then you can get up and make your decision. Never make a decision while you are in an emotional state, whether it's a state of sadness, whether it's a state of anger, whether it's a state of bitterness, whether it's a state of anxiety, whether it's a state of desperation. Whatever state you're in, think twice before you make the decision, because logic will trump emotion in the long run. Logic trumps emotion in the long run. Now, especially for my ladies who are dating, who are exploring the romantic world, you being logical will help balance you with picking the best suitor. If you're choosing a suitor based on your emotions, it's going to be very dangerous, because you're choosing out of lack, out of desperation, out of end-all be-all mentality. You know, how many women and men have made a decision with an end-all be-all mindset? I have. I've done that several times. So when you are a woman that you are more logical than you are emotional, the beautiful thing about that is your decision-making skills become superb. A lot of women, due to us being naturally emotional, tend to make very erratic decisions, and we tend to make decisions where we look back and we're like, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have taken that far, because if I thought before I acted, I wouldn't have to be paying the consequences for that. But if your emotions are not in check, you are going to constantly find yourself in a cycle where you're always looking back every couple weeks on something that transpired, thinking, if I didn't do that, then this wouldn't have happened. And I know a lot of times when I make videos like this, you guys comment and say, oh, well, maybe that just wasn't for you, or it's okay if you reacted that way, that wasn't part of God's plan. Please stop doing that, okay? I'm teaching the skill of thinking. You will be accountable for everything in your life that you mess up because you have a lack of self-control. And there are a lot of blessings that God wants to bless people with, but your emotions are like firecrackers that He can't even trust you with it. So yes, I understand what you guys mean. I get it. But that mindset, that was a mindset that I was in when I had less maturity in life. Now that I'm older, I know that I can be blessed with this blessing. And if I allow the devil to get into my emotions and manipulate them, yes, you can destroy the blessing. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And if you don't believe that, read the Bible. Because the Israelites were so emotional and constantly complaining and constantly, reminiscing and crying and being angry. Something that should have took 40 days turned into 40 years. So please don't tell me that it's okay if you lost this or if you did that. That's just not what God had for you. Please don't tell me that. Because a lot of times your blessings are delayed because your emotions, they're out of whack. Completely off the walls. Logic trumps emotion in the long run. Now, there's this wonderful thing that I heard Candace Owens say one time where she said, just because you think something, it doesn't mean it's real. And just because you think something, it doesn't make it true. And I had to pause the video when she said that because I had to let it sink in. And I'm like, oh my God, like, that's really true. Like, you can think a thought, but it's an emotional thought based on what's going on within that moment. But that thought does not determine the longevity of that situation. But you think when you're constantly going through life in an emotional way, you have an end-all be-all approach to everything. And then logic doesn't come in. It's like, you're like, oh my God, I'm so sad. I'm so depressed. I'm alone. I'm feeling lonely. I really want a man. You meet a man. You see red flags. He's like a walking tomato. Red flags everywhere. He's all red. But you're like, I just want a man. All my friends are married. I just want a man. Because you're emotional, you're not thinking in the long run, like, I can get him and I can ignore the red flags and marry him, but it's still going to end in divorce and probably me being a single mother and starting from point zero, but it's going to be harder this time because I already had kids with this person and now I'm divorced. But if you think emotionally, you're not thinking that far. When you're emotional, you only see things nearsighted. You're not thinking future tense when you're emotional. But when you're logical, you're thinking about the future of every decision you make. You are thinking about the effects of every decision you make because you're not just thinking in that moment.